Well, it looks like Wizards of the Coast just called in the big guns. Hey everybody, I'm the Nerdy Attorney. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do everything you can to let the algorithm know you like this content and you want to see more. Today is a big day for me. I'm a giant Brandon Sanderson fan, as I've mentioned before, and a huge Magic the Gathering fan. My video is focused primarily on Magic the Gathering, but today we have a happy crossover between the two, as I now have direct evidence that the Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond Cosmere Brandon Sanderson set is coming. How do I know this? Well, let's go back to Dragonsteel 2024 Nexus during a question and answer session where this exchange happened between one of us, an MTG fan, as well as a Sanderson fan, and he was asked about the possibility of him working with Wizards of the Coast.
Hello. I've been a big fan of your books for years now, and I'm also a big fan of MTG, and I was wondering, can we ever expect a Universes Beyond Cosmere?
Okay, Universes Beyond Cosmere. So, some of you know the answer to this already because I have talked about it. I would be open to the idea. In fact, when they were first exploring Universes Beyond, before we kind of knew where they were going, they came to me and said, hey, would you be ever interested in doing one of these? And I wrote back and said, yes, absolutely, gimme, gimme, gimme. Maybe just exactly, a little more professional maybe, I don't know. Then I didn't hear back from them, which is not uncommon. Wizards is a very big company, and there's a lot of moving parts. I think, this is only Brandon fan theory time, I think they did this to a bunch of people, including some very large IPs, and I think all of them said yes too. And so when you're going, you're like, hey, Brandon, would you like to? Hey, Marvel, would you like to? Hey, Lord of the Rings, would you like to? My yes maybe is a yes that goes pretty far down on the list. And so I am eager for them to work through all the other properties that would make decent Magic sets and eventually come to me. I've decided, hold out for a full set, right? Not just a few cards. I would want to do a full-blown set. And I've told them, if they ever get around to this, I will fly out to Seattle and be involved because I do like it so much. So the answer is, I do think it's probably something that will happen, assuming MTG doesn't fall apart. If the wheels don't come off by trying to do so many sets in 1 year, I think it is something that will eventually happen.
Now, as you can see from this answer, he says that he wants a full set and not a Secret Lair drop or something smaller, which implies that they have discussed a smaller, more limited set for the Cosmere, but Brandon knows the depth and scope of his own intellectual property and that it needs something far larger than a small drop, picking a handful of his characters as opposed to giving it the respect and time it deserves. Another thing I like about this, and a small aside, it shows he's a true fan of Magic as he's tracking the sets and realizes the complications that are happening right now with having too many sets per year, and hints at the fact that it might be fracturing the fan base a bit, which we will talk about in a second. Now, I can see the comments already. He said probably gonna happen, no confirmation yet, this was clickbait, there's no guarantee this is gonna happen. Well wait, I have additional evidence for your consideration that I think does make this more and more of a sure thing. When you combine this piece of evidence that I don't think many people have noticed, and put it with a video that was just posted by Wizards of the Coast, I think the conclusion is inescapable. A set is coming. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Brandon Sanderson, author of Mistborn and Stormlight and lots of things, and I'm at Wizards of the Coast, and they have a wall full of booster packs.
Now, in the video, you see Brandon going through picking his 5 favorite packs off a wall at Wizards HQ, where he goes through and selects a few of them, noteworthy including Urza Saga, my personal favorite set as well, and Rise of the Eldrazi, 2 incredible sets, and excellent choices in my opinion. And that's all he says. He doesn't say we're working together. He doesn't say this is going to be the future of a new crossover IP between the Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson's universe, and Magic the Gathering. It's just a video where Brandon is at Wizards HQ and Wizards account posted it on all of their socials. So we're going to extrapolate here. I believe that Wizards of the Coast has finally decided to commit and give Brandon Sanderson a full set involving the Cosmere. Now, before we dive in, let me just give a quick background. For those who only play Magic and don't know who Brandon Sanderson is, he's a prolific author who gained his notoriety first when he completed the Wheel of Time series for Robert Jordan upon his untimely passing. And by all accounts, he did an excellent job landing what is a very complex and long series with many diverse and unique characters and very long plot lines. He brought those all together into a satisfying conclusion, despite the monumental task before him. Since that time, he's gone on to write books like the Stormlight Archive, which will be 10 full books, 5 of which have been already written. They're giant books so big that the problem is, can publishers actually bind them? An excellent trilogy called Mistborn, which is a trilogy in a trilogy of trilogies that might actually have more books as things go along, but is an excellent place for people to start. He builds unique magic systems that are hard magic systems that work off of unique principles that have internal logic and consistency. And in fact, he doesn't just do orcs and goblins and the Tolkien-esque things, he builds completely unique worlds and planets that have different rules on gravity, different rules regarding how things pollinate and spore, different animals and creatures, different weather systems. And all of these things lend to what he does best, world building. Now, those of you from Sanderson's world looking at this, Magic the Gathering is one of the best card games ever made. It started over 30 years ago. It's incredible, and I love it to death. There are, I believe at this point, over 70,000 unique cards, and right now the premier format is called Commander, where you play with 4 people and 100-card decks where you're only allowed 1 card of the same kind in the deck, which allows for a creative and unique experience called deck building, where you build decks that have a strategy and an internal logic that work very well for you to try and win the game against your friends. Now, Magic the Gathering is going through a bit of an identity crisis right now and is at an influx or crossroads. For 30 years, Magic the Gathering had its own IP, its own stories, its own characters, like Liliana and Jace and Garruk and others. But as of late, they came out with something called Universes Beyond a few years ago, which was meant to be just a sprinkle on top of the sundae that is the universes within intellectual property of Magic the Gathering, where they would include sets like Lord of the Rings or Warhammer 40k, sets that lent themselves to the Magic ethos and aesthetic. But since that point in time and after the smash commercial success of Lord of the Rings, we've seen sets like Final Fantasy just recently, which felt like a bit of a stretch but actually was really quite good. Or ones that weren't so good in my opinion, like trying to force in Doctor Who, where they'll have actual celebrities on your Magic the Gathering cards from a TV show. And from that point, these sets have continued to be commercial smash successes for Wizards of the Coast, which Wizards' parent company Hasbro has taken note of and has changed the schedule from 1 or 2 Universes Beyond sets per year to now making more Universes Beyond sets in the following year in 2026 than the Universes Within sets. This is causing a schism amongst the Magic the Gathering player base because it is taking away the Universes Within immersion, the stories and the characters that they fell in love with over the past potentially 30 years of playing Magic the Gathering is now turning into a thing that includes SpongeBob, Dwight Schrute, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And as a result of that, for many people, Magic just isn't magic enough anymore.
With all of this, there is an identity crisis in Magic. How can we solve that? Well, the point of this whole video is I believe that Magic the Gathering has found a solution for the Universes Beyond financial requirements that perhaps their parent company is pushing upon them, and the need of the player base for Universes Beyond sets that are flavorful, deliberate, thoughtful, and match the ethos and aesthetic of the previous Magic the Gathering Universes Within sets. I mentioned the internal logic and consistency in Brandon Sanderson's hard magic systems. They're unique on each planet, and there is an internal logic called investiture that flows throughout them, and some god entities called shards that I don't want to get too into it, but would give a really clear sense of power, structure, and utility for different kinds of magic from different kinds of planes or planets in the Cosmere in Brandon Sanderson's world. This would give game designers clear instructions on how to build, comprise, and utilize powers within the Cosmere on a magic card. It wouldn't provide the same challenge that Doctor Who might have had about how do you make the Ninth Doctor feel flavorful and have the mechanic matter to the character itself. But when you have something like a Shard Blade, which is an invested sword that has magical abilities that cuts right through rock, stone, and plate like it's butter, and only severs the soul. That kind of thing is flavorful and obvious. What would you do? Well, this sword defeats indestructible and has death touch if it hits you. Boom. Flavorful, matches the mechanic, on to the next. Fans will love it, and it will make sense for those in the Cosmere, and beyond that, it will just be a cool artifact that people can use in Magic the Gathering that still is a big, shiny, fantasy-style sword. Not immersion breaking, internally consistent logic, and the perfect way to fix an identity crisis in a game that frankly needs a bit of a reboot, refresh, and a new direction.
And now to pay off the promise made in the thumbnail and the title, I believe Brandon Sanderson is the answer to a lot of Magic the Gathering's problems. Well, Hasbro wants more money out of Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering? Great! Brandon Sanderson and his company Dragonsteel are responsible for the most funded Kickstarter in history, making over $45 million for books. In an era where technology, self-driving cars, and glasses that compute things on your face are popular, Brandon Sanderson defied all, and just because he wrote 4 books when nobody knew about it, he has the most funded Kickstarter in history. Brandon Sanderson fans, and I'm one of them, like to buy Brandon Sanderson's stuff, especially Dragonsteel stuff, his books, his leatherbounds, pictures, art, anything related to the Cosmere, because these stories speak to people's soul, their character, their ideals of themselves, and their ideals of the world and the future, governance, religion, politics. They cover so many things that people often find deeply rooted ideals and thoughts that they can latch onto and can help instruct them in their lives, or at the very least, entertain them to such a deep level that it sticks around later in their subconscious or conscious thoughts. With that, they spend lots of money on Brandon Sanderson merch and items. So, I think the guy who brought the most funded Kickstarter in history to life can be the same guy to provide commercial success for Wizards of the Coast in a way that would satisfy Hasbro without requiring too much development time, without requiring too much effort in order to make it actually thoughtfully considered, in order to make it have a good story. If they are willing to offload some of the work to the stories that are already written by Brandon Sanderson and to work with the very clear instructions provided by his hard magic system, a lot of the work-centered issues that Wizards of the Coast have been facing because of layoffs or because of just a lack of effort in set as they focus on new sets, or changes in release schedules, or even changes in the complexion of sets making them much larger than initially planned, like Spider-Man, might be just the panacea that Wizards of the Coast needs both creatively and financially in order to build good Magic the Gathering sets. All of this is to say, the incredible universe of the Cosmere that has been laid out before Wizards of the Coast set designers gives them lots of inspiration and lots of room to work in order to build a set that feels like Magic the Gathering with a Universes Beyond IP pull to potentially get new players into the hobby. It's the best of both worlds, and I'm very hopeful that this first set that I believe will come and that this announcement is indicative of will be the beginning of a great and happy partnership between Dragonsteel, Brandon Sanderson, and Wizards of the Coast. Well, that's the video. Thanks for watching. I know I went a little bit overboard with this one, but I really believe that there's something special about a good Magic the Gathering set or sets, and that we've lost something in this new era. I still love Magic, and I do think that this partnership can be more than just a good Magic the Gathering set. It could be a new North Star for how we design, build, and produce Magic sets that matter. Just like Brandon Sanderson's found a way to build books that are designed, produced, and made in a way that matters. So let me know in the comments below, do you agree? Did I go too far? Is this just a silly little announcement? I'm really curious to your thoughts down below. I think this is something that Magic needs. Everywhere on YouTube I see commentary about the Universes Beyond problem and the split identity that Magic now has, and I really think this is a great synergy, and it's not going back to Tolkien or Lord of the Rings, which is wonderful, but it's been done since the beginning. Tolkien and Lord of the Rings is the beginning of so many things. Sanderson is doing something new, and I think this is something new in Magic that will actually feel like Magic once again. Well, in my traditional sign-off, be awesome to each other, play paper Magic with your friends, and as a bit of an homage, life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination. I'll see you in the next one. Court is adjourned.